All right.
We are live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the back catalog listening party. My name is Mother Banjo.
My name is Anthony Ihrig.
And I'm Dan Newton, Daddy Squeeze.
That's right. And if you're wondering why he's Daddy Squeeze, I think he has a prop right there that can show you. Yes.
That's what it's all about, folks.
Yes, it's nothing inappropriate, we promise.
Yes, and by the way, I also have my banjo with me. So
nice.
So, banjos all around.
I have to say, I feel like today's episode of the back catalog listening party is like a setup for a joke. It's like two banjo players and an accordion player go into a live stream on Facebook.
Yeah, and somebody said, "I think not," and they all disappeared. I don't know.
Exactly.
Wait a minute.
And speaking of which, if you guys are out there tuning in, thank you for joining us. And make sure to let us know you're here in the comments. Let us know what you are drinking for this holiday weekend happy hour. And I'm drinking an Indeed Shenanigans, a local Minneapolis brew.
Ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Nice and cold.
I'm drinking some very locally brewed coffee, roasted at Dunn Brothers in St. Paul.
And made in your house?
Yes, brewed right here at home.
In St. Paul.
I'm not actually sure where this is from, but I'm drinking a Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA.
Ooh.
And I guarantee it won't take 60 minutes to drink this. I might have another one or three before the hour is over.
I mean, that's what happens when you have the two banjo players and the accordion player. It might just drive us to it.
I guess I'm the designated driver.
Well, welcome to the back catalog listening party. Again, it's Friday at 4. We do this every week where we invite different guest artists to join us to dig into one of their older releases, and we listen to the songs together and talk about the recording. And we're so excited to have Dan here to talk about his 2008 release, High Top Sneakers. And for folks who are maybe less familiar with your music, obviously, Tony and I are very familiar. We both had you play at our wedding.
Yes.
That was great. What a great honor that was. They're both wonderful events. But you're both still married. That's the most important part.
As of 2 minutes ago, yes.
Yeah.
And but for folks who are maybe less familiar, why don't you give the little 2-minute bio and then maybe where this record came into the scope of your illustrious career.
Okay. Well, I moved to Minnesota in 1987 from Nebraska. And the things that I've done since I've been in the Minnesota that probably got the most notoriety are Cafe Accordion Orchestra, who's been playing a lot of French music for 25 years. I was a fairly regular performer on Prairie Home Companion with the Guys All-Star Shoe Band. And I still do a lot of work with Pat Donahue and the Prairie All-Stars. And also with both Jumbo Yaya and the Rockin' Pine Cones. I did a lot of Cajun, Zydeco, and Gulf Coast music. So that's kind of the main thing that I've been known for around here.
Yeah, and this record in particular is unique in that it has a lot of original tunes.
Yeah, the idea was to showcase, not only do a record that showcases my original tunes, but a lot of the other local musicians that I've been collaborating with and working with. I recorded a couple of my friends' tunes as part of it, and I wanted to also, it's mostly probably more of my personal roots in music, which is what you'd call Americana. Cafe Accordion got probably more notoriety than any other band that I've played with, farther reach, playing French music. But my personal background is in blues and jug band and bluegrass and country and a little Tex-Mex and Cajun and Zydeco. That's the stuff that I really was into for years and still love to play a lot of that anytime I get the chance. And that's what a lot of my original songs on this album are coming from, that point of view.
Wonderful. And also the title, High Top Sneakers, and we're going to hear the title track from it. Yeah. But you are known also for wearing sneakers.
For a long time, that was the only thing I was ever seen in public was my Chuck Taylor high tops. And I, at one point, had maybe as many, well, I don't know if Imelda Marcos's record was in jeopardy, but I had quite a few pairs in every shape and color. And I actually tried to get myself, sent this song, High Top Sneakers, into, what's the name of that magazine? That Rolling Stone, just to see if they were interested. I sent a picture of myself and sent a copy of the record to, no, I sent it actually to Chuck Taylor.
There you go.
Sent it to Converse. Are they interested in this? And they thanked me and said no. And then it was a couple of months later, I picked up a copy of Rolling Stone, and there was an advertisement for Chuck Taylor high tops, showing a punky young band with an accordion player in the middle of it, all wearing high top sneakers. And I went, oh, punky and young. That's where I missed.
Well, perhaps they were inspired by your request.
Well, possibly to throw in the accordion, but you know, I realized, oh, they don't want an aging, fat, white accordion player to represent their product at this point.
Well, you've got the punky spirit, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. And I do want to clarify that earlier you said it was what you were only seen in the high top sneakers, but I just wanted to clarify you had other clothes as well as the sneakers.
Yes, thank you very much.
I don't want to start any rumors.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of comments about that, right? No. But somebody does say yay. Anne Browning says yay accordion.
Yes, and actually Anne and I met as a result of a house concert that you did years ago, a fundraiser for the Minnesota Folk Festival. She and I met when we were talking about, she said, I've always wanted to play the accordion when she saw you play. And then I said, I always wanted to play the banjo. So this was before I bought a banjo and learned how to play it, and before I became Mother Banjo. So I have to say, and now Anne plays accordion too. So you've inspired many people. Chris
that's nice to hear.
Chris also out there saying he's all aboard, and Alan back in Dallas, Texas, back for musical happy hour, and Penny in Northfield. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited.
To have you guys.
It's going to be
it's always nice to hear where people are listening, where they are. Because we always just make assumptions. It's in our neighborhood. And you might find out. When I do my live streams, I'm finding out I've got people watching in Belgium and California and wherever. And it's great that people say where you're listening or watching from.
Yeah,
well, we appreciate all of you for joining us today, and we really wanted to have a special guest on for this 4th of July weekend. We wanted music that was upbeat. We wanted music that was fun, that you can dance to. So why don't we dive into this record, Dan? Does that sound good?
Yep. High Top Sneakers, I think, is the first one we talked about playing.
Yeah, any kind of background on that tune?
No, I just wanted to write a song about those shoes that I wore everywhere, because people were mentioning to me, if I ever showed up at a gig wearing something else, people would say, "Hey, what happened? Where's your sneakers?" So, and a good friend of mine, Jim Dryden, who's done the cover art, and he did that logo that you see on the album there, and has done the cover art for most of the records I've done, came over to my house and photographed a whole bunch of pairs of my sneakers with my accordion, and then we named the album after the title track.
These are the ones that made the cut. I love it. Awesome. Well, everybody, grab your dancing shoes. This is High Top Sneakers from Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Well, listen here, people, while I tell you the news about my favorite pair of shoes. They come in every color from a purple to tan, and fit any foot on a woman or a man. High top sneakers, I got them on my feet. High top sneakers, I can't be beat. High top sneakers, don't lace them too tight. They look so good and they feel just right. Run or to jump like the $200 kind that you gotta pump. The best thing about them, and I can't lie, the price is low and the tops is high. High top sneakers, I got them on my feet. High top sneakers, I can't be beat. High top sneakers, don't lace them too tight. They look so good and they feel just right. Hey! I picked them up and laid them down. High top sneakers, I got them on my feet. High top sneakers, I can't be beat. High top sneakers don't lace too tight. They look so good and they feel just right. High top sneakers, 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 high top sneakers. Yeah, they look so good and they feel just right. Whoa!
All right. That was Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton with High Top Sneakers, the title track to his 2008 release, High Top Sneakers. And we're into. Go ahead.
I was going to say we're only missing somebody doing the Bob Wills thing in there.
Yeah, and if you're like, I'm hearing extra accordion today. That's right. This is an accordion plus version of the album with Dan playing some live accordion as well. So great stuff. And a lot of folks tuning in. In fact, a couple people from Belgium tuning in. Emily and Maurice, and then Anne from Northfield, Sandy, Natasha, Perry. So many, Bev, and thank you all so much for joining us today on Back Catalog Listening Party for the Dance Party edition.
And it's just, wow, that was great. We got serenaded by a little live accordion too. So if you guys have questions for Dan,
is the balance okay when I do that?
Yeah.
It's accordion heavy, but that's what this show is about today. So
so folks, the thanks for all the comments. We love hearing from you. It makes us all feel like we're hanging out together, and definitely chime in with any questions for Dan. I have one though, Dan. I would love to know who was playing on that track, because there was some great guitar work and some great fiddle work.
Boy.
Who are those cats?
Well, I'll start with the two that you mentioned. The guitarist Bob Ekstrand, who has also been known as Little Bobby E.
He was my first guitar teacher.
Yeah.
At Cadenza Music in the 80s.
We had a band together for a while called, originally tried to call ourselves Dot Combo, but there was 1,000 dot combos, we found out. So we changed it later to the Daddy Squeeze Band. And the fiddle on that one, of course, Brian Wickland, great fiddle player.
One of the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, as you'll hear on the next track, I asked him to put some fiddle on some tunes, and he threw in the mandolin at no extra charge, because he said it's not music without a mandolin. And then Carl Smelker on the bass,
Nice.
Great bass player, friend of mine I've played with music with for a long time. Del Gallagher on the drums. Can't find a much better drummer for any kind of music than Del Gallagher. And then there was me on the piano and the accordion, and I think that was it. And the whole gang of us stood around the microphone and did the background vocals.
Wow.
It was recorded by Steve Call and Matthew Zimmerman over there at Wild Sound.
Oh, Wild Sound.
Nice.
Yeah.
Such a great place. Well, that's fantastic. It's a great tune.
Thank you. That's fun.
And we got a question from Perry. Tony, this is for us.
Oh.
Will you and Anthony ever play your banjos online? Not today, but it could happen. At any time it could happen, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, we might have to do an all banjo episode.
That would be great.
And then Dan, you can come back with your 6-string banjo.
That's what I was going to say. Dan's got one now, so.
Well, I can't play it. I bought it to hand to guitar players so that they could play banjo along with me. I have one of my bucket list albums is I've been thinking of banjo players all over the country that I met or banjoid players, I should say, not just the 5-string, but the 4-string, the 6-string, the banjo uke, banjo mandolin.
Sure.
That I would like to record duets with. And for instance, Jocko McNelly, who used to play a lot of bass and do a lot of Brazilian guitar around town, now lives in Philadelphia, has a 5-string banjo that he has taught himself a way of approaching it like a guitar and playing bossa nova and classical music on the banjo, and it's just fabulous stuff. And he's really into world music and knows all sorts of styles. And that was just one of the guys who inspired me to think about doing all the banjo duets that I could play with on the accordion.
That would be awesome. I'd love to hear that record.
Yeah, for sure.
Someday.
Well, that leads me to a question about your kind of eclectic tastes. Where Where does your music taste come from? What was your childhood music experience that kind of, I don't know, broadened your horizons? I mean, literally, you run the gamut, you know? Like, I can't think of a genre of music that I don't hear little bits and pieces in all of your stuff. Where's that coming from?
Well, first of all, it's nice to hear somebody say that. It's great to know that people are listening and recognizing that. The answer is, growing up in a typical suburban middle America neighborhood in the 1950s and 60s, a baby boomer kid, I saw Lawrence Welk and the Six Fat Dutchman on local television. I heard rock and roll on the radio. My mom listened endlessly to music at home. She liked big band and Broadway and classical music. And I was fortunate that when I got out of high school, having had a choir director in high school who introduced me to some forms of music that I had not been familiar with. There was a movie I went to see called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, that the music was done by Donovan. It was set in the Middle Ages.
Love that.
That led me to finding recordings by groups like Steel Eye Span and Pentangle and the Chieftains and the Boys of the Lock. And then Lincoln, Nebraska at that time had a really great scene for bluegrass music and for blues and for singer-songwriter folk. And I just thought everybody knew all these kinds of music. I didn't realize that there are people who only listen to top 40 music. And I just kept on finding more things. When I got my first accordion, I was approached by the woman who was running. She was actually the woman who gave me my first accordion. She was running the folk dance classes at the University of Nebraska and asked me if I would start learning some of the music that they like to dance to, which was Scandinavian and Celtic and Balkan and just all sorts of stuff. I was just like amazed to find out about all these kinds of music. And then finally, because back then everybody bought records and music out of catalogs, Elderly Instruments or Lark in the Morning or places like that. I went to the Lark in the Morning Music Gathering, which is a camp in Northern California, and got introduced to so many amazing kinds of music and so many amazing musicians and instruments that I had never seen anywhere else. And that all happened before I was 30. So.
Wow, that's crazy. I think I listened to rock and roll until I was 30.
I loved. See, who are my favorite bands? Wishbone Ash and Grand Funk Railroad, and later Gentle Giant and stuff like that. I loved a lot of rock music, but I also liked everything else that I could possibly get my ears on.
And I think what you are, it totally makes sense that you got your start in playing for dance music, because I will say, not only is this record pretty danceable, there's a reason why both Tony and I and many other people I've talked to, in fact, earlier this week, I think Catherine Slusher said, you also play her wedding. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a reason why we all wanted you to play our weddings, because of that eclectic nature. There's something for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everyone can dance to all the music you play. And I think there's something really to that no matter what genre you're playing, it's danceable. Is that, do you think, just a nature of the accordion in general, because it was designed for dance music? Or do you think it was, it's just the kind of music that you like to make?
Well, again, I appreciate you recognizing that means a lot. And I think it's just my approach to music. I want music to be fun. That's what attracted me to playing music. And one of the things that makes music fun to me is that rhythmic quality to it. And a good rhythmic quality makes music danceable, whether it's a happy major key sounding or minor key or something that sounds weird to our ear. If there's that steady rhythm going on with it, people can move to it. And that's, not everybody wants to sing along, not everybody wants to sit and watch, and not everybody wants to dance. But if you strike the right balance, people can either sit and listen, people can sing along on some of it, people can dance when they want to. And that's, to me, it's a matter of making it fun for people, making it accessible, and making them feel like they can participate some way, or just communicating, communicating my joy in playing this music, communicating the feelings with them. And I think that's what makes it all ends up, like you said, sounding like dance music for me. So.
Yeah. Well, we're going to dig back into the music so that folks who maybe are sitting down can stand up. You know that phrase, dance like no one's watching? Well, The good news is we can't see you. You can see us, but we can't see you. So you can do whatever dance steps you want. Any kind. That's right. You could do like the Macarena to this tune if you want. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it works, but maybe it does. And this tune is called Brand New Fiddle. Is there anything you want to say about this tune?
My longtime early partner who taught me a lot about roots music and just music in general, John Walker, told me he was once attending a fiddle contest in southeast Nebraska, a very small one, that had just a few contestants usually, and there was 3 or 4 area local fiddlers who were all farmers who kind of took turns winning the Masters division every year. And one year, one of them showed up with a new, younger wife than he had had before. And one of the other contestants was heard to say, "Looks like he got himself a brand new fiddle for his bow." Oh, wow. And I said to John, "Is there a song called that?" He said, "No, but there should be." So I scratched my head and put on my thinking cap and see what I could come up with a lot of nod. And my idea of the style of the song was a little bit of a tribute to Spider John Kerner. I love the rhythms that he puts into folk music, and I was trying to get that same kind of feel.
Awesome. All right, folks. This is Brand New Fiddle from Dan Newton on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Never even answer if I ever call, but I can find a new way to get my ashes hauled, and it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, oh no. Gonna find me a brand new fiddle for my bow. I gave you all of my corn, never gave me none. But I can find another mill where I can get my grinding done, and it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, oh no. Gonna find me a brand new fiddle for my bow. You love me, I tried to make it easy, but I can't find another way to get my skillet greasy, and it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, oh no. Gonna find me a brand new fiddle for my bow. I thought by this time, mama, maybe you'd have learned, but I can find another way to get my butter churned, and it's yes, yes. A brand new fiddle for my bow. Well, you were never home whenever I came around, but I'll find another baker who can get my biscuits brown, and it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, oh no. Gonna find me a brand new fiddle for my bow. For your particular use, but I can find another back porch where I can spit my juice, and it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, oh no. Gonna find me a brand new fiddle for my bow. Well, you were never satisfied, no matter how I try. Or if there's another passenger, this train's gonna let 'em ride, and it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, no. Find me a brand new fiddle for my bow. Yeah, well, it's yes, 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 yes. Oh no, oh, no. Gotta find me a brand new fiddle for my bow.
brand new fiddle from Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton from his 2008 release High Top Sneakers. Dan is joining us from the shores of Lake Como, not Italy, but of St. Paul, Minnesota. Joining us today to talk about this record and get our dancing shoes on. And I don't know. Yeah, I was dancing in my chair, but I was making it happen.
There's a lot of good people who went into making that record, that track sound as funky as it was. And the main two I want to mention are the drummer again, Del Gallagher, and the tuba player, Tom Wells.
Oh yeah, that was some nice tuba.
Yeah,
did a great
really
job.
Nice.
And then it was Steve Call playing his resonator guitar in the rhythm section.
Nice.
And Brian Wicklund giving me fiddle and some free mandolin. Once again, the whole gang of them back there doing the call and response to that chorus. I wanted to write a chorus that everybody could sing along with, so I figured yes, yes, no, no. It was pretty easy to sing along with.
Show of hands, folks out there. How many of you were singing along? Because I sure was. That was so much fun. And what a stellar group of musicians.
No kidding. And John Rodine was actually in there singing along with us on the chorus.
Oh, cool!
Awesome.
Very nice. Yeah. And during this time of quarantine, obviously you normally play solo. You sometimes play with Elizabeth as a duo. Sometimes you have many other bands, Honky Tonk Jump, Rock and Pine Cones, Cafe Accordion Orchestra. During this time of quarantine, you've been doing some live streams, and actually where you're sitting right now is how I normally see you these days, because that's where you do your live streams, right?
Yeah.
With those Christmas lights.
This funny little spot in my living room that just happens to be good for doubling as a stage. We've got our chili lights and this nice painting here called The Accordion Lesson behind me, and Elizabeth either sits next to me or sits across at the table answering people who are commenting in and making requests. And I do my next one. I've been doing Mondays at noon. My next one is coming up this coming Monday at noon, and there'll be others in July. And there it is right there, Facebook, Daddy Squeeze Newton right there. Or you can go to daddysqueeze.com and join in on what I call the Squeezogram. Just get a weekly update of when you'll be able to hear some of this music.
Yeah, you should, folks. And while you're there, you can head over to his tip jar. I just sent it a little scrolling down. I put it in the comments, and I also put it in the description, a direct link to his tip jar on his website. Dan is really one of the hardest working musicians that I've ever met. He is always playing, except for now he's not. And we really need to let Dan know how much we appreciate what he does for our community and for music lovers everywhere. So throw a little change into his tip jar. He'll appreciate that and keep the music flowing.
Well, and the same for you guys. I mean, you're both really hardworking musicians, and people miss seeing people like you live around town. And I think they should throw their support your way, however they can. Do either of you do any live streaming? Have you done any of that yet?
I've done some here and there, and I think my next one is July 30th. I've been taking kind of a break a little bit, but because we're here every Friday, so
yeah, it's kind of it's in some ways it's quenching that there's a little bit, but I did one so far, I guess, during the quarantine. I have another one lined up. I think in the 16th of July, but it's definitely it's one of those things that takes a different type of effort. Maybe you've experienced this, where part of the thing about music, and a lot of folks will probably recognize this, is the energy that flows between you and the audience. It's like it goes out, it comes back, and then it just kind of it feeds itself and becomes something bigger than the parts. And it's tough with the during these live streams, except for when people are chiming in on these comments, difference. Like Lindell and Patty. Yeah. Thank you guys so much, because that, I don't know about you, Dan, is that kind of for you the same thing too? When you see that coming in, I almost want to play a little more.
Oh yeah, I'm doing my stream, and Elizabeth's sitting on the other side of the room, writing down everybody's name and where they're from, and holding up these sheets of paper with so and so is listening from here and to there, and it just, people are requesting songs, and they're actually writing in sometimes the lyrics that they are singing along with, or some people are writing in like, I'm playing along on my mandolin, or stuff like that. And it's just great to know that there is that interaction, even though I can't see them. And as a matter of fact, oddly, I've gotten so accustomed to working this way that a week or so ago, when I did an outdoor gig for a socially distanced group of people, I felt really weird suddenly with people looking at me. I didn't know where to put my eyes. I've been used to like looking at myself and pretending like I'm pretending like I'm looking at all you people, but all I see is me.
You know, that is an interesting point, because I think that's, in fact, we were even talking about this when we were all getting online before we went live, is like, where should I look? Like what the, you know, like it's a new thing. Most people who perform don't perform in front of a mirror. They perform in front of an audience. So having to see yourself adds an extra layer of self-consciousness that I think, you know, is not the case in a live show.
And it teaches you a lot.
Yeah,
it does.
You'll learn a lot about your performances.
And your lighting.
I'm just so lucky that I have Elizabeth not only to help me with that, but to play music with. There are many musicians, and maybe, well, Ellen, I know you've got Ben, and I think he plays some music.
He plays a little bit, yeah.
Tony, you're like some of the other musical friends I have whose spouses don't play, or they live alone and they don't have somebody to play with, and that's what one of the other things we miss a lot. So when people watch and comment, I feel like we're getting more than we're giving by doing these live streams. It keeps us going and keeps us sane.
Yeah. So folks, you heard him. Definitely chime in. Not only right now, but when you see these live streams, it means a ton to all of us.
And we also want to keep Dan somewhat sane so that he'll keep playing accordion for all of us and keep us dancing.
Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. You gotta keep me crazy, so I'll keep playing the accordion. Okay,
well, keep him going at any rate, because we need a lot more. If there is, I don't know if you've heard this comment before, because I've heard people say it about your music, Dan, and people have said this about me when I play banjo. They say, I didn't think I liked accordion music, but I love the way Dan Newton plays. And I don't know if you've ever heard that, because I've gotten that comment on for the banjo, similar comment, and I always take it as a big compliment. But you know, and maybe it's because people don't expect you to play all these styles. I'm not sure what that is. But what do you chop that up to?
Lawrence Welk. I mean, literally. Baby boomer age people grew up with Lawrence Welk or the Six Fat Dutchman as what they knew about accordion music. And that's not bad music, but it wasn't rock and roll or blues or all sorts of other things. And at the time, Zydeco and Cajun and Tex-Mex and Quebecois music and Celtic music and Bulgarian dance music weren't being heard on the radio in America. So they didn't know that the accordion was anything other than that. There are now young accordion players, young enough, whose parents are young enough that their parents don't know who Lawrence Welk was. And they've grown up with the internet, and they see all this music being played with an accordion from all over the world. And it's just a normal instrument to them, which is really cool. For me, it means half of the humor that I was able to incorporate into the humor effect of playing rock and roll on the accordion or playing that on the accordion made people laugh, and that's part of what made them feel that way. That, boy, I didn't think I liked accordion music, but I like what you're doing. You know, I just really think that it got a stigma attached to it here in the United States.
We know all about that, Dan.
Yeah, banjos are the same. I once drove from Minneapolis to St. Paul with an accordion and a banjo in the back seat of my car and did not get a ticket. It was just pretty amazing. You know.
That really is a setup for a joke.
Yeah, I know. But we're both playing instruments that have an equal amount of jokes about them, and stigmas attached to them for being one-dimensional in musical styles. And that is, I think in recent years, for both of our instruments, eased up quite a bit.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. And actually, we got a comment from another local musician who's played with Tony before, Dan Christensen Cowan, asking if you would play some live accordion for us.
Well, if you can find me a live accordion, I will. Sure, why not?
Thanks, Dan.
I'm going to adjust my camera view so you can see the accordion.
That's pretty.
Yeah, this is made by a guy in St. Paul. He has them manufactured in Italy, and then he hand finishes them. His name is Ken Mahler, down on Randolph, Mahler Music, or accordionheaven.com. And it's called Planet Squeezebox. And I've been taking advantage of some of my quarantine time to relearn some tunes that I had written a long time ago and never gotten around to playing. So here's one of them, named after the noises that you hear from the catbird. This is called the Catbird.
All right.
Thank you.
Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton performing live. Not something we do a lot of here on Back Catalog Listening Party, but when someone asks and you have the instrument there, sounding great, and lots of folks enjoying that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for all the nice comments.
Yeah, and it technically was your back catalog. You said it was something you wrote a long time ago, so it counts, folks.
I used part of this time. I've been working on an album that is kind of like 40 years of my original compositions. Not all of them, but just some that I've written as far back as 1980 and some that I've written as recently as 2015. Boy. But just the idea, I've never done anything with them. So I'm taking the time to relearn them, getting them up to speed for performing and recording them at home, and having a good time with that.
Well, and it seems like this is for some musicians, if they have kind of the quiet and the space in their home, it can be a really good time for doing that, woodshedding and some cases writing or just new arrangements of old tunes. And it sounds like you're taking advantage of that.
Yeah, it's just I didn't want to go through when this whole thing started. We had no idea how long it was going to last, and I just didn't want to come out of it at the other end saying, oh, "No, I didn't learn anything. I didn't come up with any new music. I didn't expand some way. I wanted to make use of the extra time that I was always wishing that I had when I was busy running all over town, gigging all the time. Now I'm in my living room gigging all the time.
Yeah, and if folks, again, if you enjoyed the live performance, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, definitely throw something in Dan's virtual tip jar, because he's not joking about running around town normally. I mean, I think sometimes you have multiple gigs in a day. It's not just, it feels like, I know there are times when I've like, oh, can you play on this show? And you're like, well, yeah, I think I can, but I'll be coming from, like Wisconsin, but I think I can get there in time.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that I love about you, Dan, is that you are not only are hardworking, but you are very generous as a musician.
Thank you.
Not just playing your own music and playing our weddings, but playing with other musicians. In fact, I think the three of us were involved in probably one of my favorite, lowest attended but best shows. I think.
As soon as you said that, I knew what you were talking about.
Exactly. There was this gig that a benefit we did at the Celtic Junction, and it was like a Sunday afternoon that was like the Vikings were playing. It was beautiful. That was like every possible thing could be happening.
Yeah.
That would.
And there was accordions and banjos at the Celtic Junction.
Exactly.
I think there were the musicians and 4 people.
Yeah, exactly. But I have to say that was like the most fun. I think it might have been one of my favorite gigs of all time. There was just so much great music happening, and a lot of that was due to you, Dan. It was just a really fun.
I'm glad you asked. We had a lot of fun with that ensemble. That was Ben was playing, and Dan Gorder and Eric Paulson was on the bass, and it's where I got this idea for another thing we did that was really a lot of fun and not well attended, which was Mother Banjo, Daddy Squeeze, and Baby Grant Johnson.
Yeah, it was the family show, but we only did the family show at bars.
I still think we ought to do a Planned Parenthood fundraiser.
We do. I think we need to do that again. And also, what was hilarious is Baby Grant Johnson. For those of you who don't know, Baby Grant Johnson is a great local musician, plays guitar, does some acoustic blues stuff. And he is, I don't know, at least 10 years older than me. So what was funny is when we did interviews, I would refer to Baby Grant Johnson, and he'd be like, talk to mom, So it was, anyway, good times. And we're so happy to have you here today, Dan, and talking about your music.
Yes.
And we want to squeeze in as many tunes as we can before we have to go here. So the next one we've queued up is Say I Do. Is there anything you want to say about this song?
Well, I originally wrote it to play at the wedding of a specific couple, and I gave it their names as the title, Ralph and Sue. And somebody said, that's a really beautiful melody. Maybe if you gave it a more generic title, you might get more people to think about using it at their wedding. And I thought, well, what would be a good name? Say I Do, for a wedding song. And that's basically it. And I've played it at a lot of people's weddings. I may have played it at one of yours or both. I don't know. It's possible.
Yes, and folks planning weddings in 2021, he could play it at yours too.
And the ensemble here is me with Pat Donahue on guitar and Gary Rayner on the bass.
Oh, nice. All right, well, here is Dan Newton, Say I Do, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
And that was Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton with this tune Say I Do. And to answer your question, it's on the album High Top Sneakers, which is the featured album today from 2008. And Dan, is that album available on your website?
It sure is. You can, things have changed about where you can buy things. I used to always say just go to CD Baby, but they've taken down their store. So you can always email me, or if you live in the Twin Cities, you can just say, I'd like to come pick one up, drop something in my PayPal account or drop off a check. I can mail it to you. It's also, all my stuff is available on YouTube and Pandora and iTunes and Spotify. If you look up Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton and the album High Top Sneakers, that one's called Say I Do. And, it's funny, if you two are like me, and I know a lot of musicians are, is after an album is done being produced, we don't sit around and listen to it a whole lot.
No.
Ever.
Except for once in a while, you have to revisit it because you need to learn a couple of the songs that you've forgotten to be playing. There's certain ones off of each recording that you end up using a lot and others that you don't. And I have to say, I thank you for asking me to do this because I'm listening to this and going, oh, this album sounds really good. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah,
12 years later.
And that was one of the reasons, thank you for saying that, because that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this was there's this great artwork, that musicians are putting out all the time. And can you imagine if Picasso hung his painting for 1 year and then pulled it down? I mean, like, this is great. Music. This is wonderful art, and in our culture right now, pre-pandemic at least, no one was stopping to listen to the music. I think in the way that we are now, and I'm
so glad you're asking people to dig deep back into their past with this kind of music, because it's something you're right, something we don't do. Everybody wants new. They want the next thing. Look at this. Maurice says he learned this song from a book that he found in his public library in Belgium. My book on Mel Bay Productions.
Wow.
called Cafe Accordion.
Wow.
That is cool.
Thanks, Maurice. That's a great thing to see.
That's wonderful. And I had a question actually about the tune we just heard. You said Pat Donahue on guitar and Gary Rayner on bass. Was that some bowed bass I was hearing?
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
He makes it sound like a cello.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And it's funny because there's another track on the album, a kind of a jug band tune where he plays the bowed bass and makes it sound almost the same as the tuba that we had heard on one of the other tracks. So it's what he can do with that thing is pretty amazing. Gets some great sounds out of it.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Well, folks out there, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to squeeze in as much music as we can before we have to go today. But if you have any questions for Dan or us, feel free to throw them in the comments. It's been great hearing from so many of you from all over the world. It's been really, really fun. And I don't know about your time, Dan. Do you want to do one or two more?
I'll leave it up to you. You're the host. I think we should get Rattle Them Bones in because you guys mentioned that you both really like that one.
That's a good one.
It's a favorite of my wife, too. And I had a lot of fun writing this, too. You'll hear the influence of Bob Dylan in the song form. But it was just my attempt at using a song to just paint a picture of everyday life. Cafe Accordion Orchestra had just learned a popular French tune called Sous les cieux de Paris, which is just taking a look under the rooftops of Paris at what goes on in the lives of the people. And I just kind of thought I'd paint that picture, as well as my interest in traditional music and traditional dance. In this case, the old folks in the house are dancing, and the young folks haven't learned the dances from them yet, but they will eventually someday, once they get over their problems with somebody not coming out of the bathroom and somebody else losing their cell phone and stuff like that.
Well, grab your dancing shoes, folks. This is a good one. Rattle Them Bones by Dan Newton on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Papa had a hard day, Mama got a heartache, Grandma Grandma showing Grandpa how to do the hippie shake. Sister got a cell phone, brother got a magazine. Grandpa showing Grandma how to make a scene. Well, listen to the wind blow, blowing through the window, blowing on the old folks, shaking and rattle them bones. Papa's at the wet bar, Mama's in the sack. Grandma showing Grandpa how to ball the jack. Well, brother's in the bathroom and he won't come out. Now Grandma showing Grandpa how to twist and shout. Yeah, listen to the wind blow, blowing through the window, blowing on the old folks, shaking and rattle them bones. Ah, play it on out. Papa's in the lazy boy, Mama's down the block. Grandma's showing Grandpa how to do the eagle rock. Well, brother gone AWOL, sister gone bowling. Grandma and Grandpa out rock and rolling. Listen to the wind blow, blowing through the window, blowing on the old folks, shaking and rattle them bones. Ah, a little bit more. Brother got the stereo turned up real loud. Grandma and Grandpa out with the in crowd. Papa's gotten uptight, Mama's gone out of sight. Brother trying to figure if he should go left or right. Sister gone goth, Grandma gone disco, Grandpa gone hippie, gonna move back to Frisco. Listen to the wind blow, blowing through the window, blowing on the old folks, shaking and rattle them bones. Yeah, well, listen to the wind blow, blowing through the window, blowing on the old folks, shaking and rattle them bones. Rattle them bones, rattle them bones. Yeah, it's windy in here.
Oh, awesome. Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton with Rattle Them Bones from his 2008 release High Top Sneakers. Chris said he just added it to his CD collection.
Thank
so
you, Chris. That's
awesome.
Great. That was another lineup, kind of a dream lineup. Steve Call rattling his resonator guitar. Tom Wells again on the tuba. Del Gallagher on the drums. John Rodine backing me up on the vocals. And I got to play that beautiful big grand piano at Wild Sound over there, where Matthew Zimmerman did the mixing, and that was just a whole lot of fun. As you can, it sounds like I can hear me having fun doing that.
I can hear you guys having fun too. That what a great one. And I can hear the Bob Dylan in that one for sure.
Yeah, and that's what Connie says right here too. Mm-hmm. And Subterranean Homesick Blues, that kind of cadence. Yeah.
Or the version that Weird Al Yankovic did called Bob with all the palindromes.
It's funny you brought up Weird Al, because I will say, earlier you were mentioning Lawrence Welk and people's frame of reference for the accordion, but I think for certainly people of my generation, if you didn't grow up with like traditional roots music, my reference was probably Weird Al.
Yeah, sure.
Which is pretty eclectic, so that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Weird Al is great, and there's no doubt about it that he does. I mean, with or without his accordion, he does a lot of great commentator on social issues, great parody writer, and a great entertainer.
Is it true his dad was a famous accordionist?
No, Frankie Yankovic, who was a famous polka guy, was not related directly to Weird Al, but they met and expressed mutual admiration for each other. Frankie, really old school polka, some really cool stuff back in the 40s and 50s that he did. He's the one who introduced the blue skirt waltz and Just Because, those kind of. Everybody must know Just Because.
That's a good one.
Which was an old song before Frankie Yankovic got a hold of it. It's an old hillbilly song.
Just Because. I've heard that one and done kind of bluegrass style in the past.
Sure, and it works as I've heard it done by a big band as a swing tune. It's a great number. So Eastern European music. Beverly says that was her reference. Yeah, and depending on when and where you grew up, some people grew up thinking of it as as an instrument only for Tex-Mex and Norteño or Cajun and Zydeco. If people in Canada, especially the eastern provinces from Quebec, there's a lot of French music played on the accordion in Quebec, and then on to the east, a lot of Celtic influences. That's, there's all sorts of stuff, but a lot of us baby boomers, my generation, my part of the world, grew up on Lawrence Welk.
Well, and now I think there's probably a good deal of folks that are going to say the same thing about Dan Newton music. We even heard from one of our listeners here who learned a song from your book. It's amazing. Just so exciting to see the way that when you put that energy out there, how it gets picked up, and who knows how many great accordion songs will be written influenced by Dan Newton.
Yeah,
that's right.
I guess one of the things that I think about with my history with the accordion is when I got the instrument, I didn't look for accordion music to play. I was just looking for an instrument that I could carry around, that I could play all the kinds of music that I liked on. And it didn't matter if it was being played on a guitar or bagpipes or a flute or a piano or whatever. If I liked the music, I wanted to play it on this instrument because I could carry it around and I liked the sound of it and it made sense to me. So.
Yeah. It's self-contained. I like that about it.
You both do that with your banjos. You don't worry about, I have to play banjo literature. You're just playing music. That's
that was my. I did not grow up playing banjo music or listening to it at all. But it was loud and there's lots of jokes about it. So of course I naturally gravitated towards that.
I'm sure there's people that say things to you like they do to me, that if they're coming from a strictly banjo music background or coming from strictly an accordion music background, they sometimes might have some criticisms of what you're doing. That's not the right way to do things. But most of the time, that's kind of doesn't happen so much anymore. But when it did 30 years ago, I was thinking, well, I'm glad you think that, because it proves to me that I'm doing the things the way that I want to do them.
Absolutely.
It's true. An instrument is just an instrument. It can do any number of things. And I love what you do with the accordion. It's great. And apparently Joe does too, because he just said, I'm sold. Just ordered a copy of High Top Sneakers.
Yes.
I think you're going to be getting a lot of sales today. And folks, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so much fun, Dan.
Thank you very much for asking me. I appreciate what both of you are doing for the music scene by doing this, and what you've done with your performing before this all started happening. It's a great show. Ask me again someday. I'm sure I've got other old albums we could do.
Well, one of the thoughts was that back catalogs keep going on and on and on. So, depending on how long this keeps going.
Nope, never.
The rate things are going right now, we might be hitting you up for another one of those.
Okay. I'll be here. I'm here all week,
we have
folks.
time to fit in one more, Dan? Do you
Sure.
do you have a time for one more?
What do we want to hear?
What are you feeling? Well, I got two more that we could squeeze in, Under the Table or Kumburo.
Yeah. Okay. Why not?
Which one would you like?
Let's do Under the Table, a song written by a friend of mine.
All
Pete
right.
Kozak, whose brother Andy is a good dobro player here in the Twin Cities. And I went to school. High school with Pete Kozak's sister, who I was madly in love with, and she ran off and changed her name to Harley Jane Kozak and was in movies like Honey, I Shrank the Kids and Arachnophobia, and became a big star. And she promised Pete that if the first time she got a good paying role in a movie or a TV series, that she would send him enough money to help him record an album. This was way back in the 70s, as long as he would include a song that she helped him write. And that's this song, a drinking song written by a 16-year-old girl and her older brother. Which can be, I like to sing it with my tongue on my cheek, but it's actually could be a serious song as well. Pete and Susie Kozak wrote this one, and I just love the opportunity to record it. Under the Table again.
Under the Table again.
Yodel along, folks.
Yeah. This is Dan Newton, and on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I I used to be sober when I went to sleep. I pray to the Lord that my soul He would keep. But I followed the devil into waters too deep, and he threw me a bottle of gin. Well, it sure seems familiar down here, from the stain-covered tiles to that stale stench of beer. From my point of view, it's all perfectly clear, 'cause I'm under the table again. I'm under the table again. I'm so tired of breaking, I can't even bend. I'm under the table again. Well, honey, you just won't leave me alone. But there's just so much blood you can squeeze from this stone. So take my advice, go on, get yourself home, 'cause I'm under the table again. I'm under the table again. I'm so tired of breaking, I can't even bend. I'm under the table again. There must be acres of dirt in my past, so don't try to reclaim me when no one else has. Honey, this ain't my first drink, and it won't be my last. I'm under the table again. I'm under the table again. I'm so tired of breaking, I can't even bend. I'm under the table again.
Oh yeah, Dan Daddy Squeeze Newton with "Under the Table" again from his album High Top Seekers. So good.
I feel hungover just listening to it.
It does kind of have that quality of that kind of like the stupor vibe, you
Yeah,
know.
that again was Gary Rayner and Pat Donahue making
So good.
making my accordion and piano sound like a whole.
And who
band.
was on the harmony vocals on that?
That was Pat singing along.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks forget what a great singer Pat is because people think of him as a guitar player, but he's a beautiful singer.
And that bass work, I just got to say, man, Gary's bass work is.
Well, you should talk to Pat about doing your show.
Yeah, great idea.
Good tip. Good tip.
Yes. And if folks out there listening, I know we have a lot of regulars who listen to the show. If you ever have suggestions of artists we should talk to, feel free to hit us up. Next week, we have Jillian Ray joining us. So a great fiddler and singer-songwriter. So she'll be our guest. But this week has been so much fun, not only to hear your music and to talk with you, Dan, but also we got some bonus parts. I mean, we got some extra 6-string banjo, some extra accordion parts.
Yeah, right. we got to hear a unreleased track.
Yep, exactly.
Exclusive here on Back Catalog Listening Party.
That's right.
Now, are your shows like mine? They stay up on your website and people can watch them after the fact. So if somebody wasn't able to be here during this hour, they can go, or they can, if this was their first one, like maybe some of my people that I recognize, like our folks from Belgium there, maybe they want to look at your page and watch some of the other shows that you've done.
Absolutely. We have them all archived there. And we also have, sometimes we have links to YouTube versions as well, which are, which people can check out.
Yeah. And just a heads up, the YouTube versions will be stereo. So Facebook has a tendency to kind of crush the audio a little bit using the StreamYard service. So the YouTube versions will have it in all its pristine glory.
That's right.
Great.
But yeah, if you like what you hear, share it with your friends and make sure to tune in next Friday. We do this every Friday at 4 p.m. Central for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I know.
And I want to point, I just wanted to make a plug. I've got my own live stream coming up this Monday at noon Central, but there's also every Friday, and these stay up so you can watch them other times as well, so you don't have to miss this show. There are 4 consecutive live streams that are under the title Accordion Fridays, curated by Renee de la Prade, and she has people from all over the world lined up doing little accordion sets on Friday. It runs from about 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So check that on Facebook. I'll be on, not next week, but I think it's the 17th of July. And it's probably about the same time that you're doing this, but the good thing is if you catch one live, you can catch the other one after the fact.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if they go to this Facebook page, Daddy Squeeze Newton, they could probably get updates on all of that.
That's right.
So, folks, you're on Facebook right now if you're watching. So go right after the show and go to Daddy Squeeze Newton on Facebook and subscribe to his page, and you'll get informed of all of his upcoming live streams.
That's right. Thank you so much for helping out other musicians like this. It's very kind and generous of you two.
Dan, this has been an absolute pleasure. You're one of my musical role models and somebody that I've been looking up to since I started playing music professionally.
Here's where we all hug each other. A big mutual love fest.
And thank you to everybody, Joe and Lindell and everybody else who took the time to comment and to hang out. Thank you guys, because, you know, it's fun to talk to each other on this, but like the real joy is watching the interactions from you guys, and not only with us, but with each other. And we just so appreciate it. We all miss this so much and are so grateful to have this community.
Yeah, and everyone have a great and safe holiday weekend. Hopefully we can kick things off in fine fashion. I'm going to finish my beer and have more accordion music offline. So
yeah, I think I'm diving into the Dan Newton anthology here.
Well, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go listen to all my accordion, my favorite banjo tracks after this. So.
Perfect.
All right. Well, have a wonderful holiday weekend.
Great 4th of July to everyone. Thanks a lot.
Happy 4th.
We'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I'll look forward to it.